You've entered the fourth dimension, the one where they play chess and peggle. You've won a mansion in a raffle. You don't want to be lonely, so you bring your friends. What you see before you is the culmination of all cosmic horror, and at its summit awaits a traitor. You have entered the house on the hill.
What are you doing?
Gaming. I was asked to do this board game a while ago, but I just had to save it for Halloween. The game for this review is called Betrayal at House on the Hill, but that's a really weird name, so it's commonly known as Betrayal. Betrayal is an exploration game where, more often than not, wait for it, one of the party members will betray the rest of the group. What? Why? How? When? We'll save that bit for later on. This game was designed by Bruce Glasgow and published by Avalon Games in 2004. It was later picked up by the big name publishers like Asmodee, Wizards of the Coast, and Hasbro. So this is one of the games that you'll definitely recognize if you've ever browsed Target or Walmart's board game sections. I promise that you've definitely seen this game even if you didn't recognize it right off the bat. This game is made for 3 to 6 people, is best with 6 players, and according to Board Game Geek, only takes 60 minutes. Let it be known that I have never had a game of 6 people take less than 2 hours. Not even close. This bad boy has been lining the walls of Target since I was 7 years old. So, does it hold up to all the newer games? Let's go find out. Wait. Where am I taking you? Wouldn't you like to know? This is a kidnapping, get in the bag. Since we just did a video on different board game genres, I thought it would be a great idea to start out this video by talking about a lot of the common themes, mechanics, and elements that are present before I get down to the specifics of this board game. This is a horror game. Some of the enemies are from cosmic horror, and some of them are just straight up zombies. This game has miniatures too, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Here are some mechanics that are present in this board game. We have a modular board, which means you add pieces as you go along. We have player elimination, meaning once you die in the game, you die in real life. We have role-playing, because why not? We have storytelling, we have a team-based game with a traitor aspect, most of the time. And lastly, dice rolling. Now that we've covered the mechanics, let's move right on into the lore. You and your friends play these characters that have basically no backstory except for what you can glean off of the character hexagons. You show up at this house, and it's basically just Luigi's Mansion. If you'd like to know what the lore of this game is, just go play Luigi's Mansion. The lore changes with every scenario. The house changes with every scenario. Every single time you play the game, you're going to open up a room, take one of the tiles off, flip it over, and play it. The rooms that you unlock, what order you unlock them in, the items that you get, and the characters that you play as can all shape the second half of the game. The second half of the game will henceforth be referred to as the Haunt. More often than not, one of the players is revealed to be the traitor, and that is determined by the following ways. The person who revealed the Haunt, we'll get into how you can reveal that later. The person to the left of the Haunt revealer, having the highest value of one stat, having the lowest value of one stat, the character that you're playing, or the character's age. And lastly, a hidden traitor. Hidden traitors are only 2 out of the 50 scenarios, and I can't go into those without spoiling exactly what they are, so if you ever have interest in playing those scenarios or playing this game, I'm not going to go into that for your sake. I just want to let you know that it exists. The haunts range from fighting banshees and zombies and your former teammate to just opening up some windows. Literally, one of the solutions is you play a piano or you open a window. It's actually, the event, item, and omen cards that you can draw all have more compelling backstory written in a couple of sentences than an entire 2-hour-long game does. For example, you can walk into a room. There's a mirror there. You pick up an event card. You look in the reflection. Your reflection hands you a box that's rattling that says you'll need this for later and then just fucking disappears. And just like that, the event card is better than the 2-hour hunt you'll go through about a banshee that shrieks at people and your teammate falling in love with it. Luckily, the items that you pick up along your journey in the first half play into what kind of haunt that you get. Sort of. Most of the time, it's usually just the last item you picked up and the last card that you revealed with an omen tile. The house is separated into 3 levels: main floor, upstairs, and basement. Upon discovering new rooms, you usually have to roll to either increase or decrease your stats. The basement is easy to get into, but not easy to get out of. This kind of plays into the spookiness of the rest of the game and the kind of rooms that you'll find down there, like the pentagram room.
Yeah, that's a little cliche.
Yeah, but I can get into it, that's fine. So, let's go look at the pieces. You've probably noticed that these hexagons are double-sided. This is clearly to save on box space and printing materials. Do you and your friend want to play different characters, but they are bound together by the sanctity of the cardboard that binds them? Well, too bad. Fight to the death. Whoever has the highest score in Peggle wins. I don't know. I don't have to think about... The developers clearly didn't care about this, so why should I? Next, we have the miniatures. And of course, there is only one miniature per hex. Yes, you heard me correctly. Not every character has a miniature. Only one of each character hex has a miniature. If you want your character to match the miniature, you don't have 12 options anymore, you now have 6, and they can't be anything else that anybody else is playing. You may have noticed that these miniatures come pre-painted, but they look like shit. Because they are pre-painted, it actually dictates which character you have to play out of all of the hexes if, again, you want them to match. So even if you didn't think about the quality of the miniatures before I mentioned it, just know that I'm not the only one. I was browsing the board game subreddit one day and found that someone had created, 3D printed, and painted their own minis for this game because they also found the ones included to be complete poopy garbage. Now, if you haven't played D&D or Warhammer 40k or other games with miniatures, you may feel like this isn't such a big deal. Let's look at a game that is so similar, I can only differentiate the two by their piece quality and the execution of the game itself. You may have noticed Mansions of Madness on my Lovecraftian horror section of the last video. Mansions of Madness picks the scenario that you're going to play out beforehand. It isn't split up awkwardly by this pre-haunt and haunt gimmick that's determined entirely by rolling dice. The miniatures in Mansions of Madness come primed and ready for you to paint, along with stands. These aren't just any stands either, these are combat stands, meaning you can fit 2 to 3 pieces on some of the larger stands to fight each other. This is a huge contrast between Betrayal's 1 character mini per hex to fight enemy tokens, because they don't have miniatures for those either. Speaking of which, this box has some serious Splendor syndrome. If you remember in that review, that box does not hold anything. This box also does not hold anything. I found dice, I found tokens, I found the haunt tracker, everything underneath part of the plastic insert. I cannot get around. Why can't people just make boxes that fucking work? I can't believe that after unearthing this nightmare, I found the haunt tracker and a bunch of other billion random tokens stuck underneath and just wedged into the plastic insert in the box. Having a billion random ass tokens and really bad miniatures makes this probably one of the worst put together board games I have access to. The dice here aren't anything special like Mansions of Madness either. They're just dice that have 0, 1, or 2 on them. Just, there's no escaping Hasbro and their complete dominance to make a popular game really shitty. Every over-manufactured board game has this problem. Either they use faulty pieces or they just don't care. So the first half of Betrayal is dedicated entirely to improving your stats. By rolling, or by exploring rooms. Sometimes exploring rooms allowed you to roll to up your stats. Remember earlier I said that one of the ways you can become the traitor is by having the highest or the lowest in any given stat. Every time you draw an omen card, you have to roll these special dice, and if you roll more than whatever the haunt counter is set to, the haunt starts. And that's where the real problems with this board game begin. I'm just gonna get this out there right now. The haunts are bad. They are not good, they are not fun, they are not fast, and they single-handedly ruin this game. More than anything else I've mentioned so far. Everything else you can just kind of toss aside because of how glaring all of the issues are with the haunts. So what is a haunt? Basically, usually based on the last card and omen room tile that you drew, someone is revealed to be the traitor. And who the traitor is comes down to any of the reasons that I mentioned earlier. The survivors and the traitors have their own tome. Or, as I like to call them, these easily destroyable paper booklets that are bound together by a single staple and an eldritch curse. The traitor has to physically stand up and leave the playing area to go read their Necronomicon, while the survivors read their Eagle Scout handbook on how to start a fire or banish the witch. Sometimes, like I said earlier, they can just open up a window or play the piano really well. That's it. That is legitimately how some of the haunts end. This is where I have the biggest problem with the game, and the process of waiting for the 2 to 5 people that are plotting against you can take 15 minutes or a full-blown hour. I will never forget playing this game for the first time and getting Traitor and reading my 2 paragraphs about how the heroes are supposed to banish my specter banshee wife, and then falling asleep on the couch until they came and got me roughly an hour later. What happened when you got back, Octavian? Well, the Traitor always goes last whenever you resume the game. The survivors ended the game before it got back to me. They played the piano, pissed on my fucking wife, and then I had to drive home upset and tired. Now, this just sounds like a bad example. Except this is quite literally every hunt I have played with a group. Except for the one time where we put a time limit on the survivors so that we weren't alienating the other person from the group that was playing the board game. And of course, since we didn't have enough time to prepare, it got back around to be the Traitor's turn, and the Traitor and my bitch of a Spectre ghost ex-wife fucking killed everybody and the game was over. The tomes are not helpful or descriptive at all. Sometimes it'll say stuff like, hey, make a sanity check in the pentagram room. Make a music check in the organ room. I don't know what the fuck that means.
A few moments later.
Okay, so I found out what that means. Well, what does the Traitor know about me trying to stop them? Oh. It just says the heroes are trying to banish the Banshee. Now, notice that I'm just using one scenario for all these examples. That's just the one that I've happened to play most of the time, but I also don't want to spoil any other ones in case you do like the game, or in case you haven't played all the scenarios, or in case you want to play some of these scenarios for some reason. So imagine me, caught with my pants around my ankles as I'm playing Peggle with my ghoul of a wife. And these motherfuckers just start saying shit that's completely disjointed from the first half of the game. I swear to God, I came back and it was like a fucking different game we were playing. It was like we were playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And these people were like, I play the Seal of Orichalcos, which lets me roll to play the piano. Now your wife is dead. You've activated my trap card. Divorce papers. Now I know. This seems like an absolute shit show of a game. Because it is. If you have a very specific horror exploration role-playing game that you want to play with your friends, just play Mansions of Madness. Mansions of Madness, unlike Betrayal, has a bunch of expansions and additions. But I'm not just going to leave you hanging out to dry and just tell you to buy another board game. I actually came up with a solution for this. For this video, I have narrowed down what causes every single hunt in the game by separating all of the stats, items, room tiles, characters, and seating positions. I know. I really didn't have to do this. And halfway through doing it, I realized I didn't want to do it, but this was a commission, and I gotta deliver. Go big or go home, or else you being stop commissioning me. All of these numbers I'm about to mention are out of the 50 possible hunts. Hunts where the person who revealed the hunt is the traitor. There are 13 of them. Hunts where the left of the hunt revealer is the traitor. There are 9 of them. The person with the highest in one stat being the traitor is 12. The hunt where the person with the lowest stats as the traitor is 6. The number of hunts where there are character-based or age of your character that you're playing based traitors is 8. The number of hunts where there is no traitor and you're just fighting zombie tokens to get out is 3. And there are 2 hunts where there are hidden traitors. So why is this important, you might ask? Because I have devised, in case for some reason you have to play this game, ways in which you could not be the traitor. I've come up with a way to play this game that gives you the best odds of not being the traitor. So the first piece of advice that I can give you is don't play as Father Reinhardt or Zoe. These both have character and age-specific stats which make them twice as likely to be picked just because of the person that you're playing as. You also want to have completely average stats. One of the best ways to have completely average stats is to explore the least amount of rooms as possible, since those are the only real ways to increase or decrease your stats. Picking a character like the Flash, who has twice the amount of speed of everybody else at the beginning of the game, is probably just a horrible idea, because you're much more likely to be opening up a bunch of omen doors and making a bunch of these haunt rolls, and you're also going to have abnormally high and low stats because you're going to have really high speed and you're probably going to be lowering other stuff. Like, it's just, what a terrible way to play the game, because playing the Flash almost guarantees you to be the traitor. I don't mean that it does guarantee that you're going to be the traitor, or that you can play the Flash and not be the traitor. It's just you're asking for it. I will also mention that the Flash is the only character with a nickname at all. I feel like I shouldn't have to go over this, but I will anyways. Just give all of them nicknames or give none of them nicknames. I get it. The Flash is fast. What about Ox Bellows? Is he super strong? Oh, his strength is a 5. Nicknames in a game like this serve to let you know what characters have what abilities or attributes at their disposal really quickly. This comes at the cost of being immersive, though. The real name of the Flash is Darren. So in a spooky immersive scenario, Darren seems to come across as a lot more relatable and forces you to recognize that he is a character that isn't just fast. You know, he's not just the fast guy. I wouldn't have cared at all about the nicknames thing because it just kind of goes back and forth if they had at least stayed consistent with it. The fact that there's only one nickname character for some reason just drives me up the fucking wall. So, we went over how not to be the traitor, aka saving any hope you have of enjoying this game. I would have preferred something like Mansions of Madness's 6 fully fleshed out different scenarios in which you have one traitor, no traitor, you're all traitors, none of you are traitors, you're just fighting monsters, you're trying to solve a mystery. I would much rather have those than Betrayal's 50 bare bones snooze fest. The only good haunts are the ones with common enemies and not traitors so that you're all actually working together. So, besides the enemies in the non-traitor scenarios not being immersive and just literally being tokens that say skeleton or zombie, there are really only 3 good haunts. Yeah, that's right. There are probably only 3. The hidden traitor ones are kind of a toss-up, so that's 5. That's 1 out of 10. The odds of you hitting that 1 out of 10 are also much lower than you think they are. They're not actually 1 out of 10. Even then, almost in every single scenario like that, you win by just leaving the house. You just escape through the front door, aka staying close to the front door the entire time when you think the haunt's gonna begin. Even the ones where you're just fighting hordes of uninspired tokens with names on them aren't really fun. It's just you and your friends passing around these 10 unenthusiastically designed dice that you're just rolling into the box because they don't give you a dice rolling tray when almost every single turn you'll be rolling dice. You're just gonna be rolling it onto like your fucking coffee table or straight into the lid. Having no dice tray or a roller when games like Yahtzee have them is pretty embarrassing. When you have a game that's needlessly centered around rolling dice, you can bet on Hasbro to make it as excruciating as possible. So, that's where I'm gonna have to end it for this review. While this may have been a very fun game in 2004 when it came out, or a very fun introductory board game for you and your friends, getting picked up by a giant corporation like Hasbro really didn't do it any favors. It pretty much ruined any chance that it had for further additions or even good expansions. I mention that because in 2016, hype for the game came back up and they released a expansion. It's called Betrayal at House on the Hill, Widow's Walk, which added the roof level of tiles and another 50 disappointing haunts. The best reviews I could find online just talked about how most of the haunts are just duds, or even that they sold it off after playing it the first couple times. Do I think that Hasbro is to blame for all of this? No, not at all. Do I think that they may have prevented it from becoming a better game? Absolutely. Not to mention that after 16 years on the shelves, this game still costs $50 retail. So, let's move on to the ratings. Actually, before we do that, can we just fucking talk about the name of this game? Betrayal at House on the Hill, not at the house on the hill. Not Betrayal on the Hill, since the haunted house part is pretty fucking obvious. Ugh, I actually didn't even know what the actual title of this game was until I was commissioned to do it because I had only referred to it as Betrayal whenever I played it. I'm giving Betrayal at House on the Hill a 2 out of 5 difficulty. There are so many dumb horseshit mechanics in this game that it becomes artificially difficult. Half of the rules have no ground or purpose, or they're really easy to forget, which makes them more difficult to remember. There's also the interactions in the game. You don't know how a lot of items are going to interact with specific things, events, omens even, or the haunt itself. Pretty much whatever comes on the card is what you get, and you and your friends are going to have to interpret that, and when it's a haunt and it's 1v3, that gets kind of messy. That just usually involves the group bullying whoever the traitor is into accepting their house rule that's in their favor. The only other difficulty actually comes from you being able to roll well at the end of the game in order to win. No matter who you are, no matter what role you're playing or how high your stats are, you usually just need to be able to roll well. Granted, having higher stats lets you roll better because you get to roll more dice, but like, come on, then you're at risk of becoming the traitor. Overall rating. I am giving Betrayal at House on the Hill a 2 out of 10. I really despise this game. I had to play it again a bunch to do this review, and I was practically groaning the entire time. Not to be dramatic, but the drink recommendation for this episode is going to be whatever the fuck helps you pass out on the couch while your friends plot your demise. If you're gonna spend an hour waiting for your friends to plot how to kill you when you get off the couch, you might as well have a good time. For this video, I am recommending my signature, my classic, my home brewed bone hurting juice. So, I'm not a mixologist, I'm not a bartender. I make this one drink. This is the thing. This is it. I'm not gonna tell you guys what's in this in the video because I don't want to get flagged. Just know that it makes my bones hurt.
Osh uf aui. My bones they hurt.
So, I will, however, in the description of this video, put what goes into it and how much of you're supposed to put into it. That way, again, I don't get flagged. This is just a general thought, but one of the worst things about this game is how unclear a lot of things are. The win conditions aren't clear to the survivors, and they're definitely not clear to the traitor. Back to the haunt concerning my of an ex-wife, the Banshee. What happens if my character, the traitor, dies? Do I lose the game? It doesn't fucking say it. Does the traitor even know what the survivors are trying to do in order to stop you? No, it just says the survivors are trying to stop you. Give me a fucking break. Every haunt that I played pretty much just asked more questions than it fucking answered. This gameplay is never ever consistent due to the structure, the writing, the fucking core dice rolling mechanic. I just hate it all. There's pretty much nothing redeemable out of this game. Because I want to end this review on a positive note, I will say that the first half of the game, or the pre-haunt aspect, is actually a really nice setup. It's not executed very well, but it is a very nice idea. When I sat down for the first time and it was explained to me that I needed to roam around, find different rooms in the house, open up different tiles, I get to read specific cards. Some of them tell you not to tell anybody else what they say on them. Some of them are items you can only use later on if that haunt works for it, right? It's got a really nice setup on some of it. The second half just has such bad execution time after time that I never ever want to play this game again. Okay, I know I said I was gonna end that on a positive note, but I didn't. I couldn't do it. I'm sorry. Well, that's it for this review. If you want to find out what Mansions of Madness is all about, then you can commission me using the Ko-fi link below. Commissions are only $10, and there is a little bit of a line right now, so you might want to hop on it. Speaking of which, this was a commission, so thank you to Crumplehat for letting me voice my opinion on this game. I know it may not be what you or other viewers of the channel wanted to hear about this game, but hey, sometimes that just be how it do. Sometimes you recommend your favorite bean-based board game and what you get is the Pantone of horror games. What can I say? Before anyone types in the comments, why the fuck do you even own this game? I would like to thank Tekh for letting me borrow this game for the review. I have pretty much exclusively played it with Tekh. I have played it some other times, and I played it before when I was doing this review. However, you're lucky it wasn't mine, because one of these days I will end a bad board game review with the board game just burning. I will do it just for the bit. So I hope you guys enjoyed the Halloween episode. I hope you guys enjoyed the shirt. I wore it just for this episode. I don't think I've ever worn it in public before. So going around today, before filming this, and wearing this eyeshadow, and walking around in this shirt that says Hail Satan, it was pretty funny. I got some very weird looks, especially at Whole Foods. I know the Halloween episode wasn't that spooky, but the board game itself wasn't that spooky, I'm sorry. This video would not have been possible without my Peggle Playing supporters. Here are a list of all of my fellow Peggle enthusiasts. Thank you all, and I'll see you in the next one. Ooh.
It says that you're the traitor.
What?
Like you're the traitor.